Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a film that's a Stephen King film adaptation of one of his short stories. It's actually even directed by Mike Flanagan, who worked on the film adaptation of Doctor Sleep, for those who have seen that. That's essentially a direct sequel to The Shining, which also later got turned into a movie, which Mike Flanagan directed himself. But in this Life of Chuck movie that was based off one of his short stories, I think even the book that it's in is called If It Bleeds, I think it's called. And like I said, it is directed by or written by Stephen King. And we follow a character named Chuck, who's basically the successful real estate agent of sorts. And we also follow the story in kind of backwards order. So we start with Act Three, and we work our way back to Act One. It's kind of a story told in reverse. And when you see the film, I'm kind of glad they told it in that order based off of how things played out. But we follow a guy named Chuck, and he had this really long 39 um, year long career at this as this real estate person. He's had a lot of success with it, but he's clearly at a stage of his life where he's retiring. He's kind of fighting this illness, and he's on his way out of the world and stuff like that. And so we do follow Chuck kind of at an earlier stage in life as the film progresses, and we follow him ahead of that even earlier stage by the time we get to Act One. Like I said, this film is told in reverse order. And over the course of this film, we find out all the stuff that Chuck's done as far as how he's made an impact on society, how he has this passion for dancing, and how that has positively impacted the world around him. We also follow kind of what his living situation was as a child in Act One, where he was living with his grandparents, and they have this secret room that they always have a lock on that they don't want Chuck to enter. But there's all this other great stuff going on. Like his grandfather has always taught him the importance of math. His grandmother kind of got him into dancing and got him into film and got him into the spirit of music and dancing and all this other stuff that can positively impact the world around you. So we follow Chuck over the course of this film, his impact that he leaves on the world, and something that Chuck learns about himself that really makes him really want to kind of live life to the fullest, the best possible way that he can. And we obviously see that impact as this real estate agent that he pursues, and all this happens over the course of Life of Chuck. But overall, guys, I really, really liked this movie. This is an absolutely great movie. I heard nothing but great things about it when it was being premiered at film festivals. I think Cannes and some other major film festival outlets screened the film first, and so we now just recently got a wide release in theaters for this film. And I'm so glad that this film got the chance to be shown in a wide release format, because it is an absolutely great movie. Mike Flanagan did a great job directing this movie. Whatever Stephen King contributed as far as the short story is concerned, I thought all that was really well translated into the screen as well. There's definitely an all-star cast here. We got Mark Hamill and Sara and Matthew Lillard, Karen Gillan, Chiwetel Ejiofor, just a bunch of people that you're going to recognize from a lot of other big films that have come out over the past decade or so. Just a really great movie that really makes you feel great about yourself, makes you feel a little bit better about the world around you, and really it makes you yourself kind of want to live life to the fullest even more than where you're currently at right now. Just a very positive film that I had a very great experience watching. So let's go over some positives and negatives as to why I felt this way. So for my positives and negatives of Life of Chuck, this is a great a great cycle of life movie. And what I mean by that is we do follow Chuck all the way from his childhood to the very, very last days of basically his last days on Earth. So we do follow him in a full cycle of life. And I think the way the film depicts it, the way that we go back in reverse order of this guy's life, really kind of adds something to the story here, I think, as well. It really does kind of show you, how it went from such a dark place to a very happy place to a somewhat even happier place by his childhood, too. And how there's that one little event that he has during his childhood that definitely shapes the person that we see the way that he became over the course of the movie. So like I said, just a great cycle of life film that really makes you feel great about yourself and really wants you to pursue your own life in the best possible way. And I really like when a film really encourages somebody to do that for themselves. This film also has a great use of nonlinear storytelling. Like I said, it is told in reverse order. We do go from Act 3 to Act 2 to Act 1, and the film even has little subtitles in between those segments to let you know kind of where we're at in Chuck's life and stuff like that. So I really like the use of that in this movie. It's only about 2 hours long, so if you're worried about this being a super, super long movie, it's not like that at all. They really do kind of use that 2 hour runtime to the best that they can. And it is one of those things where, similar to Pulp Fiction, I think telling it in a non-linear story format really kind of brings something to the story and brings something to the experience that benefits the story overall in the end. So I do like how they use some non-linear elements to tell the story. I also like how, by being different, this film also feels a little more fresh and original than maybe a more standard, more traditional way that you would tell a story like this. I do like how they really aren't afraid to kind of get too weird, get too different, because by the time the film is over with, everything feels kind of fresh and original, and it feels, has a very positive impact on the way that you're seeing it. So I do like how the film does try to be a little bit more different than a traditional execution of a story like this might usually play out. It does make the film feel more fresh and more original as a result. It does kind of feel like its own beast in a way. I also do like the overall film's message of living life to the fullest and pursuing the best possible version of yourself and really making the best possible impact you can on your community, and just, leaving a positive mark on the world on your way out of the world as well. And I just think that's a really great message to tell in almost any story you can think of. And I also do like how the film has a very optimistic vibe and a very optimistic view on the world. It does have a very bright way of looking at everything and making sure that, because this Chuck character that we follow throughout the movie has a very positive way of making sure everybody around him feels really good about this mundane life that we live in, and this feels, and there's a dance sequence that really represents this as well. I really like the optimistic viewpoint that this film had of making sure everybody's having a good time and feels good, and it's kind of hard to explain without seeing the movie, but I do like how optimistic the film feels. And every time there's a dancing sequence in this film, whether it's Chuck at a school dance or Chuck performing in this, strip mall area and stuff, all the dancing sequences are very good here. We even kind of get to see how Chuck's grandmother kind of encouraged him and kind of taught him to be like that and stuff. So I liked all the dancing sequences in this film. It was all very, very well done here. And then I like how the film also kind of depicts the bright parts of the past. How everybody has warm, fuzzy feelings about Blockbuster, and how everybody's school dance was, whether it was good or bad, kind of shows the both sides of the school dances. The whole, being a part of a club after school, finding that passion that you kind of pursue for the rest of your life. All that stuff is depicted in a very positive, light way that will make you reflect on your own life. So if you're somebody where you've finished high school or finished college or started a family or so on, there's something about this movie that really helps you kind of reflect on those more positive times in your life. And I think that's just a really cool way to encourage your audience to think about their own lives as well as they're watching the film. But for my negatives of Life of Chuck, it's not an absolutely perfect film, but there's a couple little nitpicks I had with it. And one of those nitpicks is it's a very unusual film. It's a film where I could see kind of some people being a little divisive with it. I obviously really, really liked it, but there's a lot of times in the film where you're kind of asked to believe in a really fantastical thing that they throw at you at random, and you're just kind of expected to take it in. Without giving too much away, there's a segment during what's Act 3, which is, it's really Act 1 in the movie, but it's Act 3 in the overall story, and that's how Chuck kind of left the world. And there's, like I said, there's this really fantastical scene where, without giving too much away, how Chuck is kind of depicted, without, if that makes any sense. I guess without without giving away spoilers and without giving it away directly, um, there's a scene with Karen Gillan and Chiwetel Ejiofor watching the stars, and there's something that happens in this backyard scene that is extremely unusual. And like I said, there's just a lot of times in the movie where you're just kind of expected to take in this unusual circumstance that happens. And I don't know if that's going to be for everybody. A lot of the people in my audience that I saw this film with were almost kind of laughing at it just because it was just so unusual to see in a movie. So there is a lot of those moments where you're just kind of expected to take it in, even if it is extremely weird. So do go into this film knowing that some of the fantastical things don't necessarily work out the best. I also thought there really wasn't a lot of effort in the aging of some of the characters because we do follow so many years of this legacy that Chuck left behind as this real estate person. Um, there's just not a lot of effort in like aging the characters. So, like for example, Chiwetel Ejiofor works at the school that Chuck is a child in, but by the time Chuck is this adult and has this diagnosis and everything else, he looks exactly the same than what we saw him in those childhood scenes. So I don't know if they could have grayed his hair, or same with Karen Gillan. I don't know if they could have aged her up somehow with some makeup to really kind of make it fit that this is a story that's happened over the course of several years. There's just a lot of times where the characters don't age the way that they probably should be. So I thought that aspect of the story was a little disappointing, that there just wasn't a lot of effort in aging some of the characters the way that they probably should be aging. And I also thought overall that both Tom Hiddleston and Sara needed more screen time in this film, and it's really unfortunate with Sara because I think this is one of her first films in like 15 years. So it's kind of too bad that this actress that we've seen in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Legend and some other big films. This is our first time seeing her in 15 years, and yet we probably get maybe 15 minutes of screen time if we're lucky. And same with Tom Hiddleston. He's featured on the poster, featured on the marketing, and he's maybe in the film for like 20-25 minutes if we're being generous here. So I thought more screen time was needed with both of their characters, and they are very, very likable characters. So it is one of those things where, because we like their presence so much, it really would have been great to see their characters fleshed out more somehow over the course of the film. I also thought some of the visuals and some of the visual information we're given just feels a little too direct to me. Like I said, without giving away anything, there's a scene where like stars are disappearing in the sky, and just the way it's depicted, it feels just so direct. It just feels so unusual and weird. And when you see the film, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. But some of these visuals here feel a little too direct for their own good. I also thought more time could have been spent with Chuck's adult life. There's just a lot of times where we're expected to know a lot about Chuck, but we really don't know a lot. Like the way that the film is depicting it doesn't really allow us in the way that we were probably hoping that we could be allowed in. And there's just a lot of information that we have to fill the gaps in order to be caught up between Act 3 and Act 2 and Act 1. So I thought just more time of Chuck's adult life could have possibly fleshed out the film better in a more positive way. But overall, guys, I'm going to give The Life of Chuck a 9 out of 10. It's an absolutely wonderful film that you absolutely have to see. There's tons of great things about it. It'll absolutely make you feel better about yourself by the time you're done watching it. Like I said, a couple of negatives along the way. It's not a perfect film, but for when the film gets things right, it really, really gets things right, and it has a great positive, optimistic way of looking at the world that'll absolutely make you feel better about yourself. And I think that's always a great thing when a film can do that. So 9 out of 10 for me. I highly recommend it. I'm sure it's probably going to be in my best of the year at the end of 2025. And I make sure to go see The Life of Chuck. It's a great film, and it gets a 9 out of 10 for me.